Hello, beautiful friends. So much love to you. I hope you're all doing well as we take it day by day into these unprecedented times. Just want to share from the heart some reflections that will hopefully be helpful. So I guess, of course, the first thing is just so much love to all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your presence in general, and also, in this space, in this community. I just want to take a moment to really appreciate that I get to share and connect with so many amazing souls. I feel very blessed, and it means a lot to me, to be able to share and, reach people that are going through similar things. And, sometimes I notice the more I show up as vulnerably as possible, the more it really reaches the hearts of people in the best way. And just so it means a lot to me to be able to receive so much love and kindness and feedback from people, going through the same thing. It's just really awesome. And it's just another, I guess, affirmation that we're not alone. I get that a lot. You know, in sessions, a lot of times I get asked that question of, I guess it's an interesting question, but how is humanity doing? And I'm really honored that I guess people ask me that question. And I don't know, it's just, I guess my point is, like, there's so many people that are still so isolated, or at least they feel isolated. There's so many people that still feel like they're the only ones in their world, or at least in their locality, in their real life, that are experiencing these things or thinking about these things, or living in this way. And I just think it's important to know that you're not alone. And there's so many people that are going through similar things at this level, and I think there's different wavelengths or harmonics or octaves of how we're all experiencing this. And for those of you who resonate with these videos, we're on a similar octave, if you will, which is, so beautiful that we find each other so divinely. But I think everyone is going through this at some level, even if, I think there's different levels of awareness of what's happening. But even, the people who have maybe no idea of what's happening, I think everyone's feeling it. In fact, I know everyone's feeling it. And it, I guess, is just this shift, this deep, undeniable push towards facing yourself, on a daily basis, for better, for worse. Facing your shadows, if you will, facing the parts of you that maybe you don't want to face or you've avoided in the past for whatever reason. And there's no blame or shame in that. It's just kind of how it is, being born into this time, and the work that we're being asked to do, and the work that we came here to do. And also embrace our light. Something that's really interesting is that I think facing your shadow and embracing your light could go both ways. It could also be like facing your light and embracing your shadow in a way. Because both are equally as beautiful and equally as challenging. I think there's something to be said about embracing your light. And what I mean by when I say that is embracing who you really are. And it's the same thing with your shadows. It's embracing who you are fully, flaws and all, your infinite holiness and your infinite humanness, or maybe finite humanness. more like. Because stepping into who you really are and showing up the way your soul is asking you to show up, and you know what I mean, whatever that may be. Maybe it's using your voice, being more authentic, being more real, you know, stepping out of your comfort zone in order to just do the things that you know that your soul is guiding you to do, that, you know, perhaps your ego happens to be absolutely terrified of. Your gifts, you know, whatever that is, that can come in so many different forms. But I think deep down, even if we're confused or we think we're confused, we always know to some level. Sometimes being confused is just a way that, like, your lizard brain will try to trick you into not doing what your soul is asking you to do. And that's okay too. That's the thing, is that it's all okay. And this is what I really want to get down to. This is the heart of the message today. I've just been kind of noticing in myself and in others this core wound, I want to say. And this is such a historic wound, a historic shadow or whatever. I really think maybe it's one of the first ones. I think it's reflected really well even in Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and you can interpret that how you will. But basically coming down to this deep shame that so many people, and everyone, so many people feel it consciously to some degree, if you really think about it, you know, and maybe it plays out in different ways. You know, maybe it's in, again, being afraid to embrace who you are, being afraid to speak up, being afraid to have your boundaries or have your needs, being afraid to claim your beauty, your uniqueness, your gifts, your originality, your strengths, you know, being afraid to own that because you don't want to come off as like conceited or, you know, rile people up, trigger people, because, you know, when you shine in your light, you trigger people. And that's kind of the programming of shame, will have you dim your light so that way you don't upset people. And then there's a lot of shame in your darkness and your flaws and your mistakes or your imperfections, the things maybe you've done in the past, or, you know, the way that you are, whatever it is. There's just so much shame. And I really think it's like the human condition. I think if someone were to tell me I have no shame ever, like, that would be some hardcore denial. Because, like, the weird thing about shame, similar to fear, is that, again, it's very shameful to feel shame. It's very shameful to admit you have shame. It's very embarrassing. You know, shame can feel a lot like embarrassment, cringe, if you will. Just this sort of like, you know, like, I don't want to look at that. Like, you know, shame is one of the densest physical vibrations, you know, densest things that we can feel. And so, you know, our ego part of ourselves, consciously or unconsciously, will, you know, do a lot of things to try to avoid shame. And a lot of times stepping into your, whatever you want to call it, greatest potential in each now moment, there's a lot of moments where to do that, it's like you have to really be comfortable with letting yourself face and feel that shame, and letting yourself see that, you know, it's okay. But here's the thing I really want to share about that, is that, you know, I think every emotion has a reason, something that we can learn from. You know, shame exists perhaps as a way to, you know, help us to experience things that are right or wrong. Maybe that's the original intention. I don't know. Something to think about. But God, the universe, your higher self, your soul, whatever you want to call it, the truth, does not want you to live in shame. Does not want you to live in the past, to beat yourself up for not being good enough, for not being far enough, for not having this enough, It's such a tricky manipulation, and it really is so um, heavy. It's really heavy to see, in yourself and in others. And again, it manifests in a lot of different ways of just like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not where I should be, it should be different. It's just so much shame. And you can, something I've been really experiencing a lot is just letting go of so many stories, because I think a lot of times the stories and the narratives we have in our mind, when you really start making them conscious and thinking about, okay, what are my thoughts? What are these thoughts that I'm thinking? And get really, really clear on, like, I like to write them down even. It's like, what are these thoughts that are going in my head? And you start to realize that they're just thoughts. It's not true. It's not God, and if you would, it's like those thoughts that try to keep you stuck in this shame or whatever it is. You can apply this to any like heavy emotion, and the emotion itself is not the enemy. It's the mind control that wants to keep you stuck in the vibration of that emotion. And it's the deception, it's the mind control, it's the whatever you want to call it, the artificial force, Satan, whatever you want to call it. That's the energy, the consciousness that actually wants to keep you stuck in the shame, in the guilt, in the fear of, I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I can't, I'm not ready enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not talented enough, people are going to make fun of me, people are going to judge me if I really show up as who I am. People are going to realize that I'm not perfect, and then they're going to crucify me at the stake. And I don't know. These are just some lines of thinking I think that shame can cause in people. And that's not God. That's like such a mass deception. And that's why, going back, I think it's one of the very beginning deceptions of the fall of humanity. And that's why it's so deep. And that's why I know it's in every single freaking one of us. The shame that goes on, and how it's weaponized against us to keep us from being who we really are, to keep us from actually being free in every moment. God, and God, the universe, your soul, the truth, whatever you want to, you know what I mean, if you're listening to this, it wants you to be free. It's like this higher force, like this deeper force, this deeper you, it wants you to be free. And you can only be free now. And I think we have to really accept this truth before we can go any farther with anything. At least that's what's been going on in my experience. Maybe that's kind of a harsh curriculum, but there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go, and there's nothing to do besides face yourself, embrace yourself, love yourself fully. Who you are fully, all of it, the things that you reject about yourself, the things that you try to lock up and repress and avoid. Guess what? We all have that shit. And that's another illusion, is we all have it. We're all going through the same thing. It's just a matter of some people are conscious and aware of it and willing to be honest about it. And the programming is to not, And so you have people who think that they're the only ones going through this, suffering in silence, when this is literally the human condition. And it just, we just keep evolving. And even as you start to like grow past some of these denser shames or whatever it is, you kind of keep coming up against these more subtle things. And I think that's just part of the evolution. But I think another connection to this is, again, one of the first sort of like happenings in what I feel intuitively in the fall of humanity or whatever, is this shame and abandonment. And I mean, like, as if God has abandoned you, as if something is so wrong with you, something is so rejectable about you that God has just abandoned you. And I think it's interesting if you trace down a lot of your fears or maybe things that are bothering you right now, or any given moment, you might find that it's connected to that, or it comes down to that God has abandoned you. And it really is that real. And I don't encourage gaslighting yourself into saying that it's not that big of a deal, because it really is a big deal. And it's a hard realization, but I also think that the truth of the matter is not that God has ever abandoned you. The truth of the matter is that because of the trauma-based mind control, we were programmed and scared into abandoning God. I think that's really what happened. And what that also means, when we take responsibility for that, even though we knew not what we were doing, and we were born into a culture, it's not you, it's not really your fault. It's not a blame, shame game. The real living God within you does not play those games. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the Satan, or whatever you want to call it. That's the illusion. That's the material, egotistical force that is making you think that way. And it's masquerading as God. And it's actually so dangerous. It's so destructive. But when you take responsibility for this truth and you understand, what I'm talking about, it was you that abandoned God, and it's not your fault. God is not holding that against you. God does not want you to live in shame and guilt about anything. God wants you to come back home and be free. And that's, what your soul wants as well. It's not this dogmatic thing, it's this really beautiful, inspiring, exciting thing. So when you realize that it was you on some level that abandoned God, that all that means now is that you can come back home to God. And we do that by letting God in, by realizing we don't have all the answers. We're not in control of everything, and we don't have to be, and you can meditate upon that. I encourage you to meditate upon that for yourself. Is what does that mean to let God back in? And something that's coming through is that a big part of it is simply your awareness. That's the first thing, is having this awareness, coming into this deep, deep, deep presence, and again, realizing that you're not your thoughts, and being so freaking conscious of what you're believing in. Like, you have to be so humble. You really, really have to be so humble and realize, what are these thoughts? Because the thoughts are not your God, but they want you to believe you are your God, and you have believed that they are your God. That's just the conditioning of this matrix. It's not your fault. It's not something to beat yourself up about. It's not something to, just like play victim to. Again, have your moment, if you need to mourn that or you need to feel that, that's fine. We all have a process of death and rebirth. Ego deaths are a thing. You don't have to bypass that. But ultimately, you come back to the truth, so that you can be free. That's the whole thing, right? It's free, to be free, it's freedom time, to stop torturing yourself about all of this shit that literally doesn't matter. I just see it all the time, and it's really heartbreaking, and it's really hard to tell people, it's hard to tell yourself that, it's hard to face that in yourself. But that's just something I want to share. If you think about, every day is a new day. Really, every moment is a new moment. And every day, every moment really. But just to make it even easier, every day is another chance, if you want to look at it that way. Like, God is infinitely merciful. So this part of you that wants to, like, condemn yourself all the time, you can see what it wants, if, whatever the lesson there that may be there for you. But my point is, like, God, the real living God, doesn't want you to live in shame about who you are or about what you've done. The real living God is infinite forgiveness, infinite mercy. And there is something to be said about, I guess, like, repenting. And I don't mean that in a shameful way, but just like recognizing, okay, maybe I did something that was not, reflective of who I really am or who I want to be or what I feel is right. And that's okay, though, that's okay. It's like, you have to forgive yourself and you have to forgive others. And I don't mean you have to as in like a dogmatic, like you have to. You don't have to. But if you want to be free, if you want to let go of all this bullshit that's holding you down, and nobody is doing this to you, it's you doing it to you. And that's really the only way to be free, is to keep realizing, all the things that, in a way we've been doing to ourselves. And yeah, you know, I think we all know that it's like, it's the system, it's our parents, it's the generational trauma and matrix indoctrination that's been going on for so long, that we're born into, that we're defenseless against as children. Like, it's not your fault. No one's, it's not something to be feeling, taking, like, it's not a blame game at all. It's just the taking responsibility of it, so that way you can be free. That's all it is. Infinite love, infinite mercy, unconditional love. You know, this is a huge mystery of that we're stepping into, and it will set you free. And it will shatter your ego too, but that's okay. You know, just a reminder, like, having these moments of breakdowns, it's okay. You know, I don't judge myself for that. I see, you know, tears or crying or, you know, moments of deep change or like resurrection or whatever, you know, upheaval. Like, all of these things are natural in this evolution. You know, I guess one example is like, if you ever have like a super spiritual or psychedelic or mystical experience, it's very, very common that it will cause like purging, or, you know, purging, whether it's physical purging and pain, or whether it's like emotional and mental breakdowns. That's what it causes. You know, you can ask anyone who's like drank like ayahuasca or anything like that. That's just an extreme example, but it's the same thing in meditation. It's the same thing, you know, as you're coming back home. It's just, it's a normal thing, because it's that ego, you know, that ego is dying, that part of you is dying and being reborn. So, let's see, I did make some notes here. I just want to remember everything. I think that's really everything I wanted to say here. You know, I will share this too. Earlier today, I was listening to, if you've never listened to Lauryn Hill, her MTV Unplugged performance, I don't know, it's on Spotify. I'm sure you can find it other places, but it's so beautiful. You know, it's something I come back to over the years, time and time again. And I was listening to some of those powerful songs. It's very spiritual, very spiritually potent. And I was just like, I just had to burst out in tears, and I was honestly weeping. And it was such an interesting experience. And that album has made me do that many times, but it's timeless, truly. But I want to try to just explain, like, it wasn't tears of sadness. It was tears of joy, I guess. It was tears of also compassion. It was just this deep feeling, this deep experience of how much pain humanity is in, and it has been in, and how much we've all been through, and how righteous it all is, though. How righteous God is, how righteous the love is. I don't know. I wish I could explain it better than that, but it was really profound. And, you know, at the very least, I'm sure you can at least feel it, you know, kind of transmitting in this video and this energy and my voice and everything. Yeah. And it does reflect, I think it was just kind of reflecting the things I just shared about how the internal war in your mind is so real, and how we've been going through it. It was just kind of a recognition of like, that's where the deepest spiritual warfare is taking place, is in the mind. And all of this deception, and I think that's a core one that makes us vulnerable to the deception, is the shame that we hold in our bodies. And, you know, I've talked about this before, but the emotional release, the somatic release of the shame in your body, whether it's yours or your ancestors or the collectives or wherever you pick it up from, it doesn't really matter. The stories around it don't even really matter that much. It's more just to be able to, you know, feel your feelings, like I've talked about before, so that you can somatically release that energy out of your body. Because your body is such an important, you know, your body is like an instrument. It's a portal. It's your temple. And that's the easy part, honestly. The hard part is I think the thoughts around everything, and watching people spiral because they get into these thoughts. I'm just using this example of like, I'm not good enough, I should be doing more, it's not enough, I need to get to this place, I need to have this thing. God's abandoned me. I have to do this alone. God's abandoned me. I don't have it. Like, I don't have what I need. Like, it just pulls you out of your moment. It just pulls you out of your body. It pulls you out of your power. And it's such an illusion. And the mind will hate that. And I understand that, because the mind is dead set on being in control for its safety. And again, don't gaslight yourself like, oh yeah, that is dumb. It's not dumb. It's a mechanism of survival. And it's spiritual warfare being used against us. So just some food for thought today. Let go of that shame. You can let go of that shame and be aware of those thoughts and maybe yours is something else, but my point is, like, notice on your day. And it's always easier to see in other people. I recently saw some kind of meme. I think it said something like, show me where you avoid stillness and I'll show you the patterns that run your life. I wish I could attribute that to wherever I saw that, but I feel like that's fitting for what I'm trying to say. It's like, as you go about your day, notice those things that want to suck you out of your present moment. And look at the thoughts, because it's not the circumstances as much as the thoughts that are causing your emotions. And again, the emotions, releasing the emotions is the easy part. It's really getting clear on your thoughts and your beliefs and what you're believing in, these thoughts. Something could happen. That's what I mean by the circumstances or the external events. And we all go through shitty stuff sometimes. It's okay. It is what it is, I suppose. We all go through beautiful things too. But the circumstance itself is actually way less relevant to how you're feeling than your thoughts around it. Something could happen, and having that groundedness in yourself and God to know, don't like this, but I'm good, I got it, it's okay, I'm going to flow, I'm going to have faith, I'm going to trust, I'm going to be open to receiving what God is showing me right now. And what, that's really it. It's very, very simple. Being present, being aware, having your emotions. I'm not saying like block out your emotions, like, but having this deep self-compassion. Like, of course I'm going to feel sad if something shitty happens, or mad or whatever, afraid. But it's the thoughts that pop up, and they can be so quick, when something like that happens. What really is going to torture you is those thoughts that might come up of, oh, why is this happening? It shouldn't be like this. It needs to be like that. It's this person's fault. It's my fault. This is wrong. I'm not good enough. Whatever it is, just get clear on your thoughts and write them down. Like, take a moment to actually think about it, What are these thoughts I'm thinking about my situation that have me so down, if that is something you're going through, or when you do go through something like that. And you'll probably find that it's really your thoughts that you're believing about the situation more than it is the situation itself. And learning how to release those emotions, and it's not even about coming to some high vibe place. It's just coming to a neutral place, coming to your center really is all you need. Just coming back to your center. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on that note, because I was going to say this earlier, is like your awareness. Don't underestimate your awareness, because even just in a difficult moment, because we're all having difficult moments at times, because we're all having to face things that have not been faced in thousands of years, or however the hell long, who knows, time is weird. But that's really the thing, is like we're all being asked to face and accept things that have not been faced or accepted. And some of us are more willing to do that than others among the human race right now. And that's okay. That's what we're here to do, and it's an honor. That's how I feel. And it's rewarding. It is. So your awareness of these things is powerful. I think action is important, and action is always going to be, action is always going to be important, but the first thing is your awareness and being willing to just look at it. Just look at whatever you're trying to not look at, instead of like looking at it with one eye open and then just going into spiraling into your mind all your own assumptions about it, because you don't know. You know, that's the thing, is we think we know all this stuff, but maybe we don't. So it's like being open to what God is truly trying to show you, and seeing through the eyes of God. That's something that I've come back to again and again, is like, even in different something that's hard to see, whether it's a situation in your life or your thoughts, or even just something you see outside of you with somebody else, some other situation. Just looking at it full on, staring at it, instead of just, kind of being like, ooh, like, I don't want to look at that. And you don't have to think any thoughts about it. You don't have to do anything, but look at it with your full awareness and your full presence, and that's enough. And I found time and time again, and the ego doesn't like that, because the ego's like, no, like we have to fight it. We have to run. We have to do something, that fight or flight. And maybe you do again, but I'm just saying, like, that there's something really powerful about just bringing your full awareness and attention to what is arising unconditionally, whether it's negative or positive, bringing your full awareness to it, not having to have judgments about it, not having to have thoughts about it. That's just something I've been realizing, like, so many of these thoughts and judgments, and they're really quick, it's part of the mind control. That's what's really running the show until you become more aware. It's just your judgments and thoughts about what's happening. It's not really about even what's happening. It's about what you're thinking about what's happening. And as I've said before, when you really come into your heart and into your body living, everything is so simple. The mind finds it very boring, but everything is so simple and obvious and apparent, because it's just here now. It's here now. Versus, what your mind wants to do, which is jump to a million different narratives, a million different stories, a million different judgments. This is good, this is bad, this should be happening, this shouldn't be happening. And that's a great tool. I'm not saying that it's not useful when we're using it, but it's when we're being used by it that we're like zombies. We're just getting pulled around by our thoughts and our mind, and most of these thoughts aren't even our own. And we all know all of the things that go into controlling our thoughts right now. The vibrational control that goes into controlling our thoughts right now. It's crazy. So you got to watch out for that. But yeah, I think that's everything I want to say right now. Yeah, so much love to you all. And I also have sessions open again if you want to check that out. I'll put that in the description below. It's really beautiful. I love meeting with people. That's one of my greatest joys. And giving, it's an opportunity to, the Transforming the Darkness session is an opportunity to just meet one-on-one and share your story or share whatever you're going through, and getting to be met with an open heart and an open mind, in this container, in this healing transformational container. It's really, really amazing, and just be affirmed that you're not alone. You're not crazy. Like, you have a gift, and just getting to see a divine reflection of the truth of who you are beyond all of these illusions. And whatever else arises, any intuitive guidance that is welcomed, may arise. And also the quantum healing sessions, Reiki sessions. So beautiful, it's such a beautiful experience to get to connect with others. And I think that's a big thing. I hear that a lot, with people in my life and people I meet online, is just, this call towards community. And it's not a coincidence, and I'm really, really excited for that. I think it's something that is going to happen naturally, but it is something we have to show up for and come out of our comfort zone, and be willing to be seen again, and be willing to show up as who we are, because that's another thing, is so many people that I get to talk to in these sessions are so amazing, just have these voices, just have these voices or these stories or this knowledge that's so unique to me, and I just can see how much it would resonate, and encourage and inform people. But I think there's so many people, good-hearted people, that are afraid of using their voice, and they're afraid of sharing. And it doesn't mean you have to come on YouTube and share, but I just mean in general, of using your gift to assist others more and more in a way that's natural to you. This isn't you should be doing that. It's just, I think there's a lot of people who have an organic calling towards that, or if not now, you might start to. And it's so much more simple. It's like every person you meet in your daily life, is such a great opportunity to just be that example and have that awareness again, even if it's somebody who, is not, you don't think that they're on the same page as you. Like, it's okay. Like, don't underestimate yourself. Don't underestimate the light that you hold and that you're emanating, and the strength and the power that you're able to emanate. And a lot of it comes from these experiences that you cannot bypass. Okay, this is the last thing I'll say. I always do that. I know I do. It's just new things just keep popping up every time. But so many things we go through, and the time, for anyone who maybe is going through challenging things, or you're just getting stretched or pushed, it's like we have to learn to develop this grit and this strength, this resilience that you can only get from challenging experiences. You can't get that from learning about it. You can't get that from just somebody telling you about it. Maybe you can get some of those codes, but to really embody the grit and the resilience that many of us need, we have had to go through these things. It's not you being punished, and that's why it's so important to watch your thoughts, because your thoughts are going to try to discourage you from the truth a lot of the time. Your thoughts are going to try to discourage you from being who you are, because people are going to judge you, or it's not safe, or you're going to be abandoned, or you're going to be threatened, or maybe you did it in the past and something traumatizing happened, and all of this stuff is valid, and all of it can also be overcome. So yeah, come book a session. I love working with people. I love meeting everyone. And if it's something in your heart and you want to, but you're kind of scared, I would say just go for it. Just go for it. A big part of this is coming out of your shell. If it's something you're like, yeah, like I really feel like that would help me, but I'm kind of scared. I don't really talk to people. I get a lot of people like that, and so it's such an honor to be able to. And I'm like that myself, so it's not a coincidence. So it's such an honor to be able to come together and reflect that to each other, and dare to shine a little bit brighter, every day, regardless of what you're going through. Because even on your hard days, you're still you, and you're still worthy, and you're still loved, and you're still powerful. It's okay. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're being punished. It's just perhaps pushing you to a greater perspective. It's a matter of perspective, a matter of thoughts, and overcoming being controlled by those thoughts, because those thoughts are unhinged. They really are sometimes. You know what I'm talking about, and they're probably not even your thoughts a lot of the time. So I love you all so much. I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks for listening. Yeah. Take care. Until next time.